Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. Today is December 12th, 2022, and this is your Monday market update. Last week was full of action, but this week we'll have some of the most important data that as the year comes to a close. This week arguably can make or break the end of the year and even the beginning of 2023. Let's recap last week and preview this important week. Last Monday started out lower as it was still reeling from the jobs report from the previous Friday. The market ignored the global news. China continued to roll back their zero COVID policy, something we've been seeing as a key to the market for over a year now. 8 days of declining COVID cases, but that wasn't enough. And then, not to be play-by-play on you, but as the market hit the session lows, 10 a.m. came about and the ISM Services Index came out hot. Then the 11 a.m., the Wall Street Journal reporter we've come to know as the mouthpiece for the Fed, Timorous, he posted an article that indicated the fear of wage pressures and the worry that the terminal rate would exceed the 5% the market is currently worried about. The S&P closed down over 1.75%. The Dow was down about 1.5%. And the Nasdaq down nearly 2%. In case you thought there was only one side to this debate, I love the fact that Wharton School of Business professor Jeremy Siegel is out there, and his quotes are classic. He said in an interview last week, quote, "Very honestly, I don't know what planet he lives on," close quote, referring to Jerome Powell. Siegel sees inflation coming down, but he's not looking at the same data as Powell and the Fed. Different sides, it takes both to make a market. Selling pressure continued on Tuesday as we got the parade of bank CEOs telling us to watch out. They spoke at a Goldman conference, and like Jamie Dimon has been saying, the others fell into line. Watch out for the coming recession. By end of Tuesday, the market had given back all that it gained following the run-up after Powell's last set of public comments. The S&P was down another 1.5%, the Dow was down 1%, the Nasdaq was down 2%. News from the semis as it bring it back to the United States plan seems to be working as Taiwan Semi announced another fab to be built in Arizona. Recall that so many of these semis that we use are made in Taiwan, but by Taiwan Semi, but that is mighty close to China, so bringing that closer may be a good thing. Fifth consecutive days of falling stock prices on Wednesday, but the power behind it seemed to fade a little bit. So there was defense of the 3,900 level in the S&P. There was also some cold water thrown on the inflation data. Productivity and cost reports came in below expectations. And as Jeremy Siegel and others are saying, there are many falling numbers. The S&P was down less than 0.25%. The Nasdaq was down about 0.5%, and the Dow statistically flat. Let's talk about bonds for a moment. This is notable on the micro side. Over the past 6 weeks, the yield on the 10-year Treasury has gone from 4.25% to less than 3.5%. There are a number of reasons, and how this will play out will make a difference on how we invest in bonds in 2023. First, global yield right-sized a bit following the missteps of the UK. Second, inflation has arguably started to show signs of peaking and maybe even declining. And third, economic growth is showing signs of rolling over. It's notable that we are not only back to where we were before, we are only back to where we were before the UK made their actions. And bonds are also still down this year, a rare thing, but this is very notable. If this is in fact the setup for 2023, slow growth without falling off a cliff and declining inflation, bonds are an asset class to watch in 2023. Thursday opened a bit higher, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but we did break our 5-session losing streak. Reasons seem to be the Russian prisoner swap, only because it seems like the two sides are talking again. Also, China reopening headlines keep coming, and even though that seems to be priced in, regardless of why, we're happy to see some green. Dow was up about 0.5%, the S&P was up 0.75%, and the Nasdaq up 1.13%. There was also a lot of positioning ahead of the eco data on Friday. Friday did bring that PPI report that everyone was waiting for, and it was not what the bulls had hoped for. Although the market, many of the stuffed shirts on TV spoke about how hot it was, I would just say that it just was not cool, or it was not cool enough. Yes, it was above expectations, but year over year, things are still coming down. Add in the University of Michigan data that was all over the place. Consumer sentiment was ahead of expectation. Even the one-year inflation expectations has fallen to the lowest level since September of 2021. The 10-year yield was up at the close. That allowed stocks to roll over and close near the lows. S&P and Nasdaq down about 0.75%, the Dow down about 1%. Every one of the 11 S&P sectors were down, even energy. Pretty ugly week. The Dow was down 3.33%. The S&P down 2.75%. The Nasdaq was down just under 4%. Let's take a look ahead into this coming week. It's going to be a lot. If it were only just Tuesday and Wednesday, it would be enough. We have CPI on Tuesday, and then Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we'll get the Fed meeting outcome and the press conference. As I mentioned before, this will make or break the week, but much like the earnings reports these days, the real meat is in the conference call, so we'll have to see what Powell has to say. Which hat does he have on? Does he have on the dove hat or the hawk hat? With the market down like it has in the last week, he'll have some leeway to be less than grim. Will he take that leeway? we'll see how that plays out, but not to let us rest. We'll get some manufacturing eco data as well as another read on retail sales, jobless claims, PMI, and even the Fed head parade starts again post the quiet period around the meeting. So we'll see how that goes. We'll be watching a lot this week. One other item, this one makes a difference to most of us. Oil prices are hitting levels we haven't seen in a while on the way down. So gas prices at the pump also down. So we'll continue to watch that and so much more. For now, keep in touch. We have a lot to do before the end of the year. This week may just set the stage, but the curtain's not coming down yet. Still a few weeks to go. Stay in touch and check out the Friday planning video. Have a great week.